Okay, well, welcome to the fifth part of this introduction to Python programming. And so in this recording today, we're going to look at something called an if-else statement. Okay, so what is an if-else statement? Well, basically, it's a statement, a programming statement you can use which is situation dependent, basically. So sometimes you'll have a choice of what to do in a given situation, and the decision you want to make will depend on what else is going on. So for example, if it's the early morning and it's a really hot day, I might have a cold orange juice to cool me down. Or if it's early morning and it's a really cold day, I might have a hot chocolate to warm me up. Or if it's late evening and it's still really hot, I might have something other than orange juice to cool me down. Okay, so the point is here, in each of these three situations, we had a beverage, a drink, but the beverage that we chose depended on the situation, depended on how hot or cold the day is, and it depended on the time of the day, okay, right? And so the type of, or I guess the application that we're going to use in this video for an if-else statement is we're given, if you can follow in the study guide here, if we're given a latitude angle, so in degrees, we want to check if it's in the northern or the southern half of the globe. And if it's in the southern half of the globe, we want to convert it to a northing. So basically, we're taking a latitude angle, which can be in the north or southern hemisphere, and we convert this latitude angle to a northing. So I'm not a geographer, but my understanding is that a northing angle should be between -90 to 90 degrees. So it's negative if it's in the southern hemisphere, or positive in the northern hemisphere. And I guess at the South Pole it would be equal to -90, and at the North Pole it would be equal to +90 degrees, right? So as an example of that, let's say we were given a latitude of 20s, so 20 degrees south in the southern hemisphere. Then what we would like is a function that returns -20n, so -20 degrees northing, n for northing. Similarly, if we were given a latitude of 20n, so 20 in the north, then we really don't want the output to change at all, because 20 north is 20 degrees in the northern hemisphere, so that is already our northing. So we're going to use an if-else statement to decide whether we should be in the should convert this this latitude to a northing, or just leave it as it is. Okay, so coming back to Spider here, our Python language. This is the code from the last lab, so I'm going to create a new one. Clicking up here. Again, I'm going to get rid of this junk that comes up. I'm also going to clear my console. And I should actually save this, right? First, give it a name and save it. So I'm going to save this as lab Python 3. Again, remembering that we need to have this extension .py. If you don't have that, your code's not going to work. I'll save it. And again, I'm going to be using mathematics here, so I'm going to import numpy as np, just like before. Save that. Okay. So what I need to do is I need to create a new function that takes as an input a latitude, so a number, and a direction. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a function called convert to northing. And okay, I need to have this colon at the end. And so remember, inside these round brackets, I need to input the input variables. Spell this correctly. So my input variables in this particular case are going to be the latitude, so the number, and the direction. So in this case, it's either going to be, the direction is either going to be north or south, and latitude is going to be some number. So we're going to have three situations here. Well, firstly, our northing or our latitude should never be greater than 90. So we just want to add a little error check to make sure that our latitude is not greater than 90. So I'm going to say if the latitude that we're given is greater than 90 degrees, and so whenever I have an if statement at the end of that line, I need to have a semicolon. So if the latitude is greater than 90 degrees, something has gone wrong. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print an error statement. So I'm going to let the user know that the latitude should be less than 90 degrees. Okay, and if somebody gives me a latitude that's greater than 90 degrees, I want to return an error, basically. So I print them an error, letting them know what's happening, and then I return -1. Okay, so that is an error code. Okay. So now the second thing that could go wrong, if someone could give me a latitude that's greater than 90, someone could also give me a latitude that's less than -90, right? So remember, a latitude should be between -90 and 90. So now ELIF stands for else if. If the latitude that is inputted into this northing, convert to northing function, if the latitude is less than -90, again with a semicolon, oh sorry, with a colon there, I also have a problem because the latitude should never be less than -90. So I'm going to again print them an error message. So I will say latitude should be greater than -90. And again, we have an error, so I'm going to return this error code of -1. Okay, so if the latitude is greater than 90 degrees, we'll send an error back. If the latitude is less than -90 degrees, we'll send an error back. The other option, of course, is that they give us a nice angle that is between -90 and 90. So we have to account for that here. So if, else if, and then else. So if this is true, we're going to do this. Else if this is true, we're going to do this. Else, so if both of those are not true, we're going to do something else. Okay, so else, I'm going to use my semicolon. Okay, so now here is where we can start to return a northing, because now if we've got to this part, then we know that our angle is between -90 and 90. Okay, but what happens here is going to depend on what the direction we're given. Okay, we could either give us a southern, if I come back to this page 12 here, I could either be giving a latitude 20 and a direction S, in which case I want to convert that to a -20 and a north, or I could be given a latitude 20 and already as a northing N, and in that case I don't want to change anything. Okay, so if I'm given a good angle, I get to this part. So now I say if direction is exactly equal to S. Okay, so semicolon and colon there. So now I have another if statement, which is saying if the direction, I can either be given a southing or a northing. So if the direction is exactly equal to, so I have two equal signs, if the direction that I get input to this function is exactly equal to S, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to say lat is equal to the negative latitude, negative of the latitude. I'm going to say the new direction, which I'm just going to call direct, is equal to N, because I want to convert it to a northing, remember. And I want to return both of those new things, right? So I want to return lat comma, direct. So lat is my new latitude, which is the negative of the latitude given in the function. Direct is the new direction, which is always going to be a northing. And so I send both of those back by placing in square brackets lat, comma, direct. So lat, comma, direct. Okay. If this all happens if my direction is equal to S. So notice that my S is inside these little marks here. So that's because S is a string, right? It's not a number, it's a text, it's a string. So that's why I have to put inside these little comma things. Okay, so if direction is exactly equal to southerly, then I have to do this. If it's equal to northerly, then I don't have to do anything, right? So I can, if it's not equal to S, then it's obviously equal to N. So I can return the original latitude and the original direction. So again, let's just really quickly go over each part of this new function that we've just defined called convert to northing. So convert to northing takes as input a latitude, so which is a number, and a direction, which is a text. It's a string. Okay. So if it so happens that my latitude that somebody gives me is greater than 90, I return an error. If it so happens that the latitude is less than -90, then it returns an error. Else, if I get given a good number, which is between -90 and 90, I do this, okay? And what this is I then look at the direction. So if the direction that I'm given is a southerly, then the latitude is going to be negative. The new latitude is going to be the negative of the latitude I was given. The new direction is going to be a northing, okay? And then I'm going to return this new latitude and this new direction. Else, if the direction is a northing, then I'm just going to return the original latitude and the original direction. Okay. I could also, if this is a little bit confusing, I could actually also write this as else return latitude and direction. Okay, let's have make sure that this works. Okay. So let's now that remember we define in our code we first put our import. So we first put things we're trying to import. We then define our functions, which we have just done, and then we can start to type our commands. Okay. So I'm going to just say my latitude is equal to 25. My direction is going to be a southerly in this case. And what I want to do is I want to get two numbers, or a new latitude and a new direction, right? And let me just write this out and then I'll explain it. Okay. So I have a latitude of 25, I have a direction of southerly. I take my function convert to northing, which I've just written up here, and I input to that a latitude. So my latitude is 25. I input a direction. My dir is south in this case. And so that sends that latitude and that direction to this function. If you recall, when things are working correctly, I get back two things. I get a latitude and a direction back. I get a latitude and a direction back. So therefore, previously I had A equals something, for example, but now I'm going to have two things within the square bracket. So I'm returning two things here, latitude and direction. So I have to have two new things returned to this function. What I'm going to do then is print what is returned. So print latitude equals plus str new lat. Okay, so this is going to say latitude is equal to the string, the new string, I might add a space in here, plus str new direction. So hopefully this will, new direction should always be, northing, right? So this should hopefully this new direction is always northing. So if I save and run that, I get an error because I have an expected and indented block. All right, so because I put this else function here, this return should also be indented. So if I press enter here, this is where I should have put my return. So let's try that again. Okay, so this is good because it shows us that no matter how many times you do something, you always come up with errors. So I might just take out this little gap that I've put in here for some reason. Let's see how that works. Okay, good. Okay. So we started off with a latitude of 25 degrees south, right? And our function convert to northing has given us an output of negative 25 degrees north. So this seems to be doing the right thing, at least for these values. Let's try changing these values a little bit. So let's try 50 degrees south. I get negative 50 degrees north, which is perfect. Let's try a number that's greater than, let's say greater than 90. So let's say 100. And so now here we get an error. Let me just clear everything here to make this a little more obvious. So here we say latitude should be less than 90 degrees. And we entered 100, so that's true. So then we get all these error things here, so that's okay. Let's try the negative 100, make sure that one's working. Let's clear this before we run it. Latitude should be greater than negative 90 degrees, so that seems to be working. And so now let's just go back and make sure what happens if we get 20 degrees south. We return negative 20 degrees north, which is correct. But what about 20 degrees north? Then we just return 20 degrees north, as we expected. Okay, so this appears to be working. Fantastic. So this is a bit of a crash course in how to use if, and else statements, okay? What you might like to do now is try and replicate this code, but instead of converting to a northing, maybe we're giving a longitude and you're converting that to an easting. So please rewatch this video as many times as you need to understand how if, and else work. And then please try and reproduce this code to convert a longitude into an easting. Okay, thank you.